No, I'm pulling up the notes.
The notes.
All right.
I do like the tree in the background. You have learned a lot about farm stands, Reagan. You're going to become a farmer, I think, one day. I think bigger than your little hobby farm that you
I
have.
have made No, listen, I have made this very clear. I own horses. I do not claim to be a farmer. I do not claim to be a rancher. I couldn't even tell you what the differences are. Ryan, frankly, I can't even tell you the difference between a rancher and a farmer. I had cows. Did that make me a rancher? I had two of them. Now they're in the freezer.
Yeah, I think, the difference is you can be both. So, because if you farm something, that means you actually grow something to sell it, right? So that's a farmer. And then if you're a rancher, you tend to have cows. So, and you tend to do grazing and you tend to do things like that. So you can be both. Some people like to just classify a rancher and some people like to just classify a farmer. Usually it's east side of the mountains versus west side of the mountains.
So since I live on the west side of the mountains, I would be a farmer. And
Yeah,
you're on the
who
east
does
side,
some
so you're a
ranching.
rancher.
Like we own a
There you go.
ranch that
So
does some farming, right? So
I think it's clear as mud, frankly, just like a lot of our farming statutes.
oh, geez, just like it seems like most of the bills and stuff in session right now, right? So it's
Yeah.
crazy. Everything is clear as mud. So here we go. Off to the races. We're 2 days in I was going to say special session, on short session, and we're just bombing away. So lots has happened. What's going
I
on your end?
Well, I think overall, so we start with the overall picture.
Okay.
The tough part about special session was, and I think we talked about this, is it felt like we just unpaused the very end of long session. And I don't know if you remember the very end of long session, no one's particularly happy. And I felt like that came through in the special session. Here, we've had the reset. We've had the work groups. We've had a couple of interim days. People have drafted their bills. There's new hope in the air, Brian. And people are once again trying to get their bills passed. And so now they're nice again, right? Not all their bills are dead. Not yet, anyways. There's still hope alive in the air. And that, I think, is what makes it feel a little bit fresh and new and not as ugly as a special session or the end of a session. So I think that is the table setting here, where we've got a new table that's been set. Some of the same issues are back. Some of the same dishes are here. We had, I heard Leader Elmer talking about setting a table and a menu that can make you sick or pass out or whatnot. So I'm continuing that narrative here. A new table set. Some of the same dishes are back, but there's also new stuff. And so if you didn't like the old stuff, you can kind of get involved in some of the new stuff. So that's what I kind of think. It's a little better in that sense.
That's good. Yeah, no, I think we're kind of off and running over here in the Senate, and things are going pretty quick. But I think the good part about short session is stuff dies quick too. So things are either moving or it's dead. So it's good to from that standpoint, it's good. It's bad if it's your bill that's dead. So every day that you get bumped on a hearing or anything like that is a day closer to your death as a bill. But there's not a whole bunch of bills. The biggest turmoil yesterday was probably just the craziness in the House judiciary, which is normally saved for Senate judiciary, but apparently Rep. Krupp has decided to take up the Measure 114 banner and run with it some more again with Measure 114.
It's nice of him to lighten the load for Senate Judiciary and Senator Persanskia and those folks over there. I have been ignoring that as much as possible. I'm sure that will be relevant on the floor at some point if it does escape committee, but luckily I don't have to care about that yet. And that's the key too. I was talking to a lot of people. You just have to choose what you're going to care about, right? I think that's the hardest thing about leadership is you almost kind of have to have a pulse and a monitor and aware of everything. And here in our lowly individual members' offices, I can say, well, that's not in my committee, so I don't have to care about that yet. Yeah, and I love that. So I'm in natural resource world. I'm not even in full ways and means world yet. If you haven't escaped the subcommittee, which you definitely haven't, I don't even want to talk to you yet. And you go talk to your whatever sub is relevant. If you're natural resource sub, I'd love to talk to you. There's lots to do on natural resources or housing, right? And I think that if you're a smart staffer, if you're a smart legislator, work your own bills and then work your committees and don't try to step too far out on some of these other issues unless you've got like something really solid on that. Because you can really spread yourself too thin and then actually accomplish literally nothing. And I
Yeah.
think that's the worst feeling is to go through a whole session and then not feel like you've accomplished anything. You didn't have anything to take away. You didn't have a funding, you didn't have a great speech, you didn't have a bill, you didn't have an amendment, it's just zero.
Well, I was going to start today with, what Oregonians actually care about. So there was a fun DHM survey that was commissioned by OBI, Oregon Business and Industry, just in January. And I thought that report was pretty telling. And I think the key finding, which I thought was very interesting, and I think we all inherently believe this, is that only 26% say the state is heading in the right direction. And that just seems, even a little high to me. And I think the other one is that
Yes.
85% say cost of living. And then deep into that means 77% say housing affordability are like the key issues. So basically, if we're talking about anything except for that, we're probably just wasting our time with voters in voters' minds.
Right.
In voters' minds. Doesn't mean other people have pet projects, but basically, if in the voters' minds, if you're not dealing with cost of living or housing affordability, basically they don't care. The elected leaders' job performance, I thought, Governor Kotek near an all-time low, 64% disapprove of her performance, and 64% tied disapprove of the legislature's performance, which I thought was pretty interesting. So I think Governor Kotek is dragging us down, Reagan. I really feel like really feel that the special session, I think she's really pulled us into the doldrums of running the gas tax through there. And I really feel that she's pulled us down. She's like, if I'm going down, you're going with me. um, but juxtapose that with only 55% disapprove of President Trump's performance.
And I need to look for the crosstabs on this because I would like to know because we're called crosstabs, right? I want to see
Yeah.
what's his approval rating. Is it 35%? Is it a little higher? That's what the number I need to see. So I'm gonna go looking for that at some point here if I don't find it right now. But that I think that is interesting. I do think Oregonians are very fair, and so they're going to blame the governor and the legislature equally.
Hmm.
Hard to argue with that in a lot of ways, because we're not the greatest body of folks. Sometimes we do
True.
some pretty silly stuff. So I can kind of hear that.
Okay. I
I think
got
one
I
of the
got
numbers
the
I found interesting. Oh, did you find
so
it?
yeah, so Governor Kotek has a 24% approval.
Okay.
The legislature is slightly better, 28%, and President Trump has a 42% approval,
Okay. So
43% approval rating.
42 to 43 is higher than I would have thought.
Yeah.
So that's 11 points, negative 11 or 12.
Yeah, about with
Wow.
Kotek at what did I say, 64, and then she's 32. So she's minus 32.
Wow. Huh.
That's a big difference.
I would not have predicted that. And I was looking for so the methodology, 600 registered voters across the
Yeah.
state, sample size. So I mean that's a reasonable sample size too. Wow. Okay.
Well, it's DHM, and we know that they don't do, John has been on our show, right? He's done a lot of
Many
stuff.
times.
And
Many
I think,
times.
he doesn't do campaign polling, so he really can be a little bit more trusted in regards to his polling stuff. So he's not pushing one side or the other. So, um, but one of the things when he took up his like political issues and stuff, we were talking about taxes and all of the cost of living things. One of the things I thought was pretty interesting is like government mismanagement is kind of starting to slide up the scale as an issue that people really care about. And I find that to be very interesting, right? Where to see government mismanagement, I guess, would be fraud. If John was here, he'd probably speak to that. But that's what I'm going to just go ahead and go with is that means fraud. So that's really kind of a key thing. But the key to the right direction and all this stuff with Kotek and I really looked at all of the differences in all these things, Reagan. And the key to this is I went back to, he has a slide in here that was slide 2, and you could probably look at that one. And I'll try to put some of these slides up in the pod so people can see them. But he goes all the way back to 2001 when you look at like right track, wrong track kind of stuff, right? Like, are we going in the right direction? Or do Republicans feel optimistic? Do, Democrats? We were about where we were in 22 across the board with Republicans, NAVs, and Democrats. And so that ended up being a good Republican year in Oregon. And I wonder if you think about that, like in 18, Democrats were way more right direction on things. Republicans were way more down in the tank. But Democrats now are way off the mark where they were in 2018 when last time you had a Trump midterm. So I feel like in the NAVs are pretty upset. They're below where they were in 2018. So maybe if you had a negative outlook, that means you're going to vote against the majority.
So here's the thing too. Did you keep scrolling on these? If
Yeah.
the election for legislature were today, did you see that one?
Well, I did, but I mean, you're kind of
Oh,
blowing the
sorry.
wad there, Reagan. Go
Sorry.
ahead, though. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Republicans 45, Democrats 42 statewide. How could we be running? I don't think if you asked anybody on the street today or any prognosticator, any professional consultant on either side, what is the current state? What is the current generic ballot
Yeah.
statewide? So we're a D+9 state and we're R+3 in a
Yeah.
January poll. Now, granted, again, January poll, but I think one of the things driving that right now, and this is going to be the Democrats' main thing that they have to do is can they get Democrats to come home because only 75% of Democratic voters are supporting Democrat candidates, whereas 92% of
Yeah.
Republicans voters are supporting Republican candidates,
That's
right?
the
So,
difference. Yeah. Like the Republican candidates. So what that tells me is our base is holding strong, and then the Democrats are wavering. So Reagan, that really goes to what policies are the Democrats putting forth in this session? Very base driven policies, right?
right.
Illegal immigration, disconnect from federal tax code, very anything anti-Trump, right? Pro union stuff. So they're going back. We got obviously the one deal that they did yesterday in House rules as well, which was the abortion bill and stuff. So we're kind of sticking. They're very sticking into their base because they figured all they need to do is shore up their base to make sure that they drive home the elections.
Yep. And I mean, you're seeing that across the board here with, I would say, uh, pedal to the metal approach, like you said, on those Democratic issues
Hmm.
where they're not softening up where they were at in the last session. They are doubling down. And so I think it'll be interesting to see how that stuff moves. Generally, the sort of general sense around the building is that the unions have overstepped a bit on their disconnect messaging against maybe some of the folks that they perceive to be swings. Now, I don't know if they're swings on the actual proposal that came out, and I don't necessarily want to get into the technicalities of that proposal
Yeah.
yet. I think it's a little early, maybe next week. But it's not full disconnect, but it definitely has pieces where they try to recapture some revenue and they try
Hmm.
to do some tax credits around the edges, which is the classic Democrat. We're never going to lower your taxes, but we might try to give you, a tax credit that 1 in 10 people can use, right? So that's their classic strat because they're really trying to recoup revenue because I don't think they yet know, and we'll find out tomorrow how big the gap actually is with the revenue forecast, right? And is the gap getting bigger or is it getting smaller? Is there a kicker? Is the kicker getting bigger or smaller? All of those things, right? And I think this also goes to, excuse me. So, which of the three options do you think you should use to close the state budget gap? Essentially, is what they asked.
Hmm.
12% raise taxes. Well, first of all, I'd like to appreciate the 9% who say they don't know. Yeah, neither. Sometimes I don't either. And so far, I'm hearing that when you meet with a lot of the folks in Ways and Means and ask, how are you fixing the budget problem? They also say they don't know.
Yeah.
So maybe the co-chairs are in that 9%. Don't blame them.
Yeah.
12% say raise taxes. Okay, now that is much heavily more Democrat. 27%, so more than double, say reduce spending. And that's 42% of those guys are Republicans. That's one of the heavier sections of Republicans. And then double it again to 52%. And you've got almost double as reduce regulations and create incentives, which is, of course, kind of OBI's point, which is they would like to grow the economy. So you grow the pie, which helps you have to not do cutting and not have to raise taxes, right? And so that's obviously, very good argument they're making, not only based on their experience in business, but also what people are saying. And I think if you give people raising taxes is painful. Cutting spending is also painful. I don't think it's
Yeah.
always painful for all the same people, but it's not easy either. And I
No.
think even if the co-chairs walked into the Republican offices today and said, "We are done with this. You guys get the budget," right?
Yeah.
It's not going to be a walk in the park to figure out what to cut. All right. I
No.
think some people pretend it's a simple equation. It's not. But there's a magic door number three that people want, and it's economic growth, right? And the question is are these little tax credit moves, are those going to drive economic growth, or do we need bigger changes? Do we need bigger changes to land use, for instance? We need the Jobs Act that's over there in the Senate that does some pretty big things and has a lot of sponsors, but also is a maybe on a particular hot list of a particular a group of conservationists. I was trying to. I was going to use a different term. I'm not going to. Right.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think that what we really are starting to see, I like the idea of the reduced regulations and create, economic growth. I think that's where most people want to fight into is say, hey, how do we get, because we're an economic, our state, our economy is driven by jobs. And then that also drives our spending because most of our money is derived from income tax. So I think people kind of know that inherently, so they want to say, "Hey, let's just get regulations out of the way and let's get incentives and let's get some businesses going again." And that seems a little bit better than just trying to go in there and reduce spending. And that's where I wish the Republicans, I know we love to harp on reducing spending, living within our means, but they're decent little buzzwords, but they're not as strategic or very, very concrete on here's exactly what we need to do to get ourselves, out of this mess is let's go raise revenue, not by taxes, but raise revenue by creating more growth. And I like that message.
Yeah, only 1 in 4 people like the cut spending message anyway. So you're
Yeah.
only going to be able to reach a quarter of your audience, and it's already an audience that is pretty locked into supporting Republican candidates, right? So your upside there, it's low upside messaging.
Yeah.
So I
And
think
that's probably all
also the
Republicans anyway.
reason that Republicans
Sorry.
exactly. I
Yeah.
think the other reason that Republicans are fired up is because of we've just won this big victory on the tax measure, right? And it's been referred, and now Democrats
Yeah.
are trying to move it to May. And I noticed, and I had to laugh. And this may create a new category for the awards at the end of the year, beginning of next year, right? But the oof where it is award, oof there it is. Senate President Rob Wagner recently kind of did the classic the classic political blunder, which is accidentally speaking the truth out loud. He says he's quoted by OPB. Is it political? For sure, Senate President Rob Wagner, D. Lake Oswego, told the reporters last week. I don't think people want to see this on a November ballot. Now, I don't know which people he was talking about. He wasn't talking about anybody who signed the petition. He wasn't talking about Republicans. People may know who he's talking about. I'm not sure. Wagner's office later sought to downplay his remarks. Don't you just love when you got to go clean up that
So
quote?
great. Yeah. That is the best. There's nothing better than when they have to go clean up somebody else's remarks when you're the comms director or whatever. It's there's nothing that drives you more crazy.
The worst one is if you're in the room when the quote is made.
Yeah.
You got to like not let on that you're just cringed because your journalist, unless they're on the phone, may notice that, and you don't really want to tip them off and hope maybe they don't use it. But yeah, I think they realized where they were at on that one. But
Well, why
props
not?
to OPB for
Wh-
going out there and printing it.
Yeah, that is good. But also too, why not? actually, this the sad part is this props for President Wagner for actually admitting the truth. But a bummer that they tried to clarify it, right? Like he had a good props by just stating the obvious. And I think we need to do a little bit more of that in Salem and politics in general is just state the obvious. Like clearly it's better politically for the Democrats to have it in May, and it's clearly more beneficial for the Republicans to have it in November, right? Especially on the governor's race, because
Right.
it'll be called co-tax tax increase by whoever wins the Republican primary. And that's going to help with non-affiliated voters don't want a gas tax. So I don't know why that's controversial. I mean, why not just, I mean, it's inherent, right? That's going to be the case. So, and if you're the party in power, you want to limit your exposure to losing elections. That is called politics. Nationally, Republicans are doing it, right? They're trying to figure out how do they use the majority in Congress to help position themselves in a way that helps them win votes. It's what you do. I'm not against that.
I think you make a pretty good argument for that, Brian. And I do think, like, generally what you hear from people is they're tired of the lies. So maybe more frank communication, even if it's saying the kind of politically convenient thing or the thing about what's politically inconvenient. Maybe that is the right call. I do not know.
Seems like
But
it to
you
me.
could be totally right about that.
I think people, especially in
So,
politics
Brian,
today, they're so anti like fake, and they think everybody's just, talking point heads and talking heads. A little bit of frankness can really help a candidate be real. So,
no, I do think that candidates have to be true to themselves, and so if they just need to say the truth and it's going to ruffle some feathers, I think. So where do we go from here, Brian? It's already day 2, and like you said, there are some bills that are already dead. Maybe their sponsors don't know it yet, but the chairs and maybe the vice chairs do know it. And I think that, but what I've been telling people, and I got this, I'm going to take credit for it, but it was really my wife that said this, is if long session is like drinking from a fire hose, short session would be like drinking from a fire hydrant. And I think that is very accurate because it's day 2 and I already feel like I've been here for a month and everybody's already tired and it only gets worse from here. My hope really is the Senate doesn't send us too many bills to work second chamber, Brian. I don't know what I'm going to do if we get too many bills.
yeah, right. I think that the second chamber part of it, because that's really when it becomes a sprint, right? When you get stuff over the first finish line, and then we start getting close to, walkout zone, which is very difficult. So it's 35 days. So then you get the day 28, day 26, day 25. You start going, well, let's not blow it up because the one side could just walk out and everything just goes to shit. So and then if you have a bill you want to pass or you barely got it on one side of the chamber and you're secretly going, please, let's not walk out. I've really been working on this bill forever.
There's always one or two of those.
Oh man, it's
So looking
so
at the
true.
calendar, we end technically, constitutionally, the last day of session would be March 9th, which is a Monday. I'm putting this out there right now, and I've been telling people we've worked a Friday, we've worked a Saturday.
Yeah.
I think we've even come in on Sunday before. I don't think you win the next vote for Speaker or Senate President if you bring people back on that Monday. I just don't see it, Brian. I
Mm.
really do not. I think that there's enough margin by starting early, going overtime in that Friday, Saturday, Sunday zone that you really have to want to bring some pain if you're bringing back people on Monday, March 9th. So I really
Yeah.
think this is a 34-day session, truth be told.
Oh, good
And
point. Mm.
which already shortens your runway, right? And so we'll see how we do as it looks like the 4:30 committees are wrapping up. So,
I know. Geez, look at us. We might have to go back to work for a little while. Ways and
all right.
means, right? 5 to 8. Jiminy Christmas.
Yeah, on reduction
So,
options. That could be fun.
Well, we'll come back. Reagan forgot his microphones. That's why we had to do it over Zoom. We'll come back on Friday, I think, right? Isn't that what we're planning on, or maybe Thursday and do another episode? And then we'll
Yeah,
get
well,
into some Bill specific stuff because I kind of wanted to see, we needed to see what kind of got dropped and what was kind of getting pushing, and then we'll go into some specific bills, I think, in the next episode.
yeah, we'll see if I even have time to do that. I mean, goodness, just trying to keep a handle on our committees, our handful of stuff is
It's
it's
pretty
amazing. And
crazy.
that's with 2 bill limits and 2 limits on CapCon submissions,
I
which
know.
thank goodness we need more of that. We need bill limits. We need CapCon limits. Those are some things we need desperately. But yes, we'll be back Thursday or Friday. It's hard to keep those folks here after Ways and Means on Friday. People are just running out of the Capitol, desperately trying to get home. And right now, it kind of looks like we may not even have Ways and Means on Friday. So that would be
Oh, that'd be nice.
tremendous.
Yeah, that'd be a good day
So
right
keep
there.
keep hoping that that's the case.
If that happens, I'm flying down to Arizona for the weekend.
All right. Well, you enjoy that. I think I'll just sleep,
Right. I
or
hear
more
you.
likely prep for Monday.
I hear you. All right. We'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Brian.
All right. See ya.